Hello old-timers and newcomers, I am CorpseHusband, and thank you for joining me to take another look at what I found. Found footage invites ambitious young filmmakers without a budget to show what they can accomplish even with this limitation. People watch films like The Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity that seem very simple, and yet they leave an impact big budget studios could only dream of. It's inspiring to say the least. But like most fiction, it may end badly if taken too seriously. There was a time when all found footage was a lazy mishmash of shaky cam, poorly executed subsurface tension, and bass tones, and it got old very fast. Thankfully, boredom is more motivating than examples, and directors started experimenting with beyond the very limited definition of what found footage was at the time, with things like Searching, Cloverfield, Project X, VHS, and Apollo 18 being made. Films that didn't shy away from showing they did indeed have more than 2 cents to play around with. Not that I knew anything about those growing up. I was far too distracted by Slender Man before Sony ruined him. But the tradition of found footage that either was or looked cheaply made continued online, primarily with web series that was within the Slenderman mythos. But eventually even that got boring, and now here is Blackout. Blackout is an oddity I haven't heard about before. A 12-episode mockumentary web series that never bothers to pretend it's made at the cost of a Happy Meal. Every episode is edited and produced to look professional, with artistic pans, color grading, background music, and entire crowds of actors. The best comparison I can make is the Key Chronicle from Matthias at High Five Studios, though I'd argue he's got the better actors of the two. The show starts as a documentary about sleep disturbances, but quickly shifts focus to one specific case, with oddities that seems almost supernatural. But it's a little hard to tell. Still, it is one of the more interesting premises I've heard for a found footage web show for a while now, so I think that makes it worth checking out. April! If only to hear that! April! It's a hilariously awkward and contrived opening that establishes sleepwalking is weird. Because staying true to facts like how sleepwalking isn't even considered a disorder if it doesn't affect one's health makes for a pretty shit documentary.
The truth is, nobody knows exactly why some of us sleepwalk.
Stress, lack of sleep, migraines.
And being CorpseHusband.
Till I throw it back, then I blow it back. Drop it down low, let 'em know it's like that.
So no, it's not a hard lore to disprove. It's the kind of show where you have to roll with the nonsense to enjoy it. Anyway, the first episode is called Do You Sleepwalk, and begins with the producer of the show, Aliyah Somani, played by Anna Sani, interviewing the creators of a new online community devoted to sleepwalkers, meant to be a support network for those who struggle with the condition. But health, community, and getting help is boring, so what's the weirdest member that you have on the site?
We're on our way to the small Niagara escarpment town of Precipice Hill to meet Ethan Reed.
And I want to be clear on that. She did ask what the weirdest case on the site is. And rather than protect the members who trust her with their privacy from yellow journalists looking to hang any one of them out to dry, she points to someone and says, "It's that weirdo over there." Ethan, played by Keaton Hewitt, is remarkably accommodating to the documentarians because he simply wants some help. What makes his case unique is he appears to lose consciousness without falling asleep, which I would attribute to narcolepsy. Not that he's gone to a doctor about it.
Looking into Alzheimer's and dementia and amnesia, but I mean, at my age, that doesn't...
Ah, self-consultation, the one reasonable option. When a consultation costs $500 fucking dollars. It's not as if he just did some lazy googling and picked and chose some befuddling symptoms to make his condition appear abnormal. The writers did that.
I'm not a liar. I'm not.
It's what I expect to hear from a hoodwink. But to be fair, there is a bit more to the story. See, before he figured out why he kept losing hours of his day, he started filming himself. And when he figured out he left his house without even realizing, he took to wearing a body cam.
That's when I found out that this is not just happening to me.
Intriguing. And that was very good for a first episode. It showcased the mix of docudrama and nonsense that makes it up. It showcased the good visuals, and it set up a decent mystery to be explored. And it's only 8 minutes long, so if you like the first episode, you'll know whether to keep going with the rest of it. Not that I have a choice in the matter. Episode 2, The Town, has Aaliyah looking into reports about the mass somnambulism, only to be violently stonewalled by the Precipice Hill police, claiming they don't want to encourage any tall tales about happenings or creatures.
There's a monster lives out there. We call it the Ghoul.
Really? The Ghoul? Not the Beast, not Monster, not Random Animal Man, not lazy variation of Nessie, but the Ghoul. You don't think you're trying a little bit too hard with that? Again, we are shown the considerable resources of this production, as not only are they filming in open areas, but conduct half a dozen interviews with different townsfolk that all have stories about the weird things happening in the woods ever since the government mucked around there back in the 80s and did whatever shady stuff they did.
For the most part, I don't believe any of the stories, but part of me can't deny those woods are bad luck.
Props, actors, locations, post-production, and none of it ends suspension of disbelief. If only the story made any kind of sense, it'd be perfect! Aaliyah continues forcing sensation where there isn't any, connecting the local legends with Ethan's sleepwalking, even if her camera woman Talia, played by Alyssa Capriotti, isn't entirely comfortable with the investigation going down that route.
I don't really want to get involved if it's going to be alien pod people. I am interested in checking out the rest of this town. It seems like a cool place.
Yeah, it does seem like something unique's happening in this town.
Coincidence does not equal correlation in reality, but this is fiction. Episode 3, The Forest.
Very few places remind us how little control we have in our world better than the woods.
Ever applied for welfare? For 2 weeks, they completely ignore Ethan, because local mystery grabs more of an audience than one man's inconvenient somnambulism. But they're lucky enough he reaches out to them for another interview when he does, because they manage to catch him just as another episode starts, and he leaves the apartment for the forest. Following him, they lose him, because Talia has no forest legs. But soon enough they find themselves surrounded on all sides by more sleepwalkers shuffling out of the dark. Engaged in a peculiar ritual, the walkers seem to be building some kind of altar from scattered round poles that have definitely just been lying around the forest floor, not prepared with tools or cleared of offshoots, no. Oh, and they find Ethan. And also...
Come on! What is that?
Slenderman got the horn? Wait.
At the given signal, the people turn back and make their way towards civilization. But Aaliyah and Talia spots a woman lying on the ground, and running up to her they find she's not breathing.
And episode 3. And you might have noticed the episodes are very short and don't really follow a dramatic structure. Every episode feels a little bit like one scene cut from a movie, furthering the story that little bit more. This is something I feel like most, if not all, web series do, especially when they have an investigative moment. So it's not too jarring, but it throws any kind of pacing it might have had out of whack, with things just happening. It's realistic, but it does feel a little bit chaotic.
Episode 4, Aftermath. Calling the police only discredits them, as the cops can't find anything like what they described in the woods. The experience set the two investigators down different paths, as Talia refuses to return to the woods, but Aaliyah still wants to know what all of that was. So they decide to investigate the town rumors about the ghoul.
Some people say it grabs children in the middle of the night and brings them into the woods. It's a fun little ghost story.
Wait.
For the most part, I don't believe any of the stories, but part of me can't deny those woods are bad luck.
It's the same interview from before. Meaning that all of the clips are pre-recorded and assembled after the fact to convey the story instead of filmed as the story progresses. And that is a nail in the coffin for suspension of disbelief. But it's still pretty.
Ethan had the idea to print some frames from his bodycam video and see if anyone in town recognized themselves. And the women ask if he too suspects what's happening to him is connected to the rumors about the forest and the ghoul. He says maybe, but he doesn't know enough about it to say. As tend to be the case, there is very little information about whatever happened back then, and most of it focuses on a man who went missing in the forest back in the 80s.
As for the monsters, yeah, I'm not gonna be convinced of that until I see one with my own two eyes.
Right, so next few episodes?
This week, we'll find out what exactly happened in those woods, and what the lasting effects have been.
Research begins with an interview with a professor who led a study into the biodiversity of the local area in 1986, Professor George Hood, played by James Downing. A student intern called Andrew, played by Matt Jensen, disappeared 3 days into the excursion, and from the police presence and scientists, rumors grew about a seedy government conspiracy that was really all an innocent census of the local flora. So much for sensationalizing rumors and hearsay, but they don't give up. They have to be onto something. Otherwise, why have dog-clad men been watching their hotel room since the first night they arrived in town?
Fuck.
Sure, don't call the cops immediately and have them arrested. Warn your stalkers and let them be better prepared next time. That'll end well.
Episode 6. Rumors. Not sure why it's called that, it's got nothing to do with rumors. Ethan gets a checkup and he is in perfect health, yay! But he mentions the doctor did focus on whether or not he had any lumps, so best remember that for later. When they get back, Ethan finally receives a response from his poster. A woman who claims she is in one of the pictures and wants to meet up, but considering people have been following them, neither Talia nor Ethan are all that keen to just show up.
Come on. I really doubt that's connected to the sleepwalkers from the woods.
You made the connection between the guy sleepwalking and the local legends before there was anything to tie it all together, but now you're struggling with 2 and 2.
Talia and I will go with you. We'll make it safe.
You couldn't make a ball pit safe.
Talia seems to agree with me, realizing they're in over their heads and they should back away from it, but Aliyah refuses. She rejects the idea that anything dangerous or supernatural is going on, and when Talia starts talking about feeling like she's experiencing the same trances as Ethan, Aliyah only dismisses it. That's the last straw, and they split as the episode ends. The 7th episode, Lost, is a collection of videos supposedly recorded on the night Andrew went missing back in the 80s, but it shows the exact same altar as the one the sleepwalkers were building back in episode 3. So either the place time travels or they fucked up the continuity. Either way, the video shows Andrew and his friends stumbling across a cabin when the same roaring trumpet sounds, and they seek shelter in the cabin before the tape conveniently cuts off. Back in the 10s, Ethan and Aliyah goes to meet the woman from the phone. At night. In the forest. This turns out to be a less than smart idea.
Aaliyah! Aaliyah! No! Hey! No! No! No, Aaliyah! 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 No! No!
Fucking gerbils.
Why the men in ski masks did not take Aliyah or her camera, I don't know. But episode 8, Journal, begins, and Aliyah hands the video to the police, and discovers Ethan kept a Google Drive of evidence for what's going on, including the strangers watching their windows at night. And he kept a vlog detailing his experiences.
I just don't know how much more of this I can take.
Don't worry, it's only 3 more episodes.
Episode 9, Intruder. Apparently the girls sleep with their windows open like assholes, and weirdly enough, someone takes advantage.
Please!
What the hell just happened?
The show itself is kind of iffy on it. Maybe she fell into a trance, maybe she fainted, maybe the actress was instructed to drop the camera and no one told the editor why. Either way, Episode 10, Lies, begins.
It was very important that they had a glitchy, bespoke graphic right there telling us the footage was gone after they told us the footage was gone. Especially when Ethan backed everything up on an external server, so there was no point to any of that in the first place. Tonya Hoshi, Kyle Power, writers and directors. If the drama you're creating doesn't serve a purpose in the story, it's flaccid, shallow, and above all, it's annoying. But it still looks pretty.
It turns out the cameras caught Talia slipping into a trance several times, and Aliyah was not even slightly bothered by it. So not only did she know that Talia experienced the same thing as Ethan, but she pretended as if it was all in Talia's head. So she better confront the backstabbing gaslighter, and she better get it on camera.
You knew that it was dangerous before we got here.
No, I didn't. I didn't know that. I wanted to find answers.
Yeah, that's something I haven't put too much focus on. When Aliyah acts as a journalist reading off a script, she's actually not that bad, but when either of the girls are on camera and have to act emotional, they are about as convincing as my high school drama kids. I saw one of them on TV a few years ago, so good for her.
It turns out Aliyah's father has been experiencing this all of his life, and she started looking into strange sleep disturbances to poke around and see if she could find an explanation or a solution. That's how they found the town, and that's why she tried to manage Talia so they wouldn't have to leave, and that's why she ignored all the risks and lied to her and put Ethan in danger, and honestly, fuck this bitch. Episode 11, Memo. Talia has rightly kicked Aliyah out and fortified Ethan's house, and I think somewhere along the lines the creators forgot whose house this is supposed to be. I mean, the women don't live there, there's nothing keeping them there, they can just leave. But if they did, we wouldn't have a conclusion. It turns out Ethan wasn't as stupid as he seemed. He had his phone set to record and sync up with his Google Drive, so the entire kidnapping was caught on tape, and he could whisper his location back to Talia to find when she went over his drive.
You might wonder why he didn't call the police himself if he had a phone with a signal. I said he wasn't as stupid, not that he wasn't stupid.
Episode 13, The Cabin. It's the very same cabin Andrew sought shelter in before, and Talia finds it with relative ease. It's actually what looks like a chicken coop, stripped down and decorated to be slightly creepy. And look, it's an operator symbol, nice touch. Talia does find Ethan, as well as a random video camera that will be important in no way whatsoever. With Ethan freed, they run away and call Aliyah for help, but remember there is supposed to be a monster in these woods?
I really need you right now, okay? I have Ethan. Okay, are you still in town? Who's there? Who's there?
Happening? Are you okay?
Go!
Now, I want you to prepare yourselves, because what you're about to see may be the most ridiculous thing you have seen in any found footage movie. The precipice ghoul is covered in peanut butter.
Aside from the brief run-in with the ghoul, when it saved them from a kidnapper, Ethan and Talia escape pretty easily. Then they pack themselves into a car and drive out of there, never to return to Precipice Hill, and warning off anyone who would dare try to find it.
You wanna bet? This was the last update I made since 2019, and I doubt a single person involved with this production have any plans to continue. Honestly, I would be a little bit peeved about not having a resolution to this story, but considering what a confused mess the whole thing is, I doubt it left us with any questions that were worth answering. But then what did I think of this movie? It's pretty.
Blackout is what happens when someone studies the building blocks of filmmaking and never gives any thought to what to do with it. They have all the tools and know how to use them, but are guessing at what to do with them. I can understand wanting to master the tools before creating anything because you don't want to fail. I promise I understand that. But playing around before you know anything and failing again and again is just as important as learning the ropes. This I tell you from experience, and I am paying for it to this day. The show doesn't feel like a show. With its minuscule episodes, random run times, and it barely lasting for more than an hour in total, it feels like a movie that has been cut apart to maximize ad revenue from YouTube. So that's what I'm gonna look at it as. It gets to the point right away, with the odd trance the town finds itself experiencing, and Aaliyah and Talia finding themselves wrapped up in it pretty quickly, but then it mellows out with not a lot of interesting things happening for a while. Being so short, it's not necessarily a problem, but setting the bar that high that quickly does make it more boring than it could have been. Especially with Aaliyah and Talia as main characters. Much like the movie, they were pretty, but that's it. The hidden story where Aaliyah gaslights Talia to make sense of her father's condition is interesting, but not only is all of that only revealed near the end, but it doesn't affect the plot in the slightest beyond shallow drama. With or without it, Talia would have found Ethan's messages, saved him, and they would have driven off, never to come back again. Speaking of the plot, I'm not sure if anything they did amounted to anything. Let's say the girls hadn't shown up. According to the film, Ethan was already making vlogs about local legends and his condition. Finding no answers with doctors or the internet, he got creative and strapped on a body cam for clues about what was going on. From there, he could have kept digging all by himself, and eventually gotten caught and maybe sacrificed to the peanut butter man. So that's one thing the girls changed, but what else did they do? They dug into local legends Ethan was already familiar with, filmed Ethan walking through the woods, which he was already doing, and they had contrived drama on the side that didn't amount to anything. Am I missing something, or were they entirely pointless? Finally, the story meandered in every direction and didn't seem to know what to focus on. My best guess is Tanya and Kyle wanted to tell a multifaceted story that affected many characters, but with it starting as a documentary on sleep disturbances, only to focus on Ethan and then the local legends and then the girls themselves, it doesn't feel like an epic survey so much as they just not knowing where to point the camera. There is of course another, far more recognized web series phenomenon where people usually did the same thing, the Slender Man mythos. Pretty much all of them starts the same way, with one project interrupted by the appearance of Tall, Pale and Gruesome, only for him to infect the lives of everyone who come in contact with him. The difference is shows like Marble Hornets, Tribe 12 and Dark Harvest ran for far longer than this, which let us get more of a feel for how his presence affected their lives, with all of it tying back to him. Here it feels like random events experienced by attractive people we have no relationship with or concern for. Blackout is a nice attempt at doing something new with the web series format, but mishandled by people who didn't know any better. I appreciate the effort gone into it, and the ideas for what they wanted to do with it aren't bad, but I quickly found myself disinterested with the flat drama, unfocused storytelling, shallow characters, and unsatisfying finale. I sentence Blackout to a 5 on a scale of 11.
Thank you all for watching. I have been CorpseHusband, and my job schedule is a little bit iffy right now, so if something happens that will make next or the video following that late, then I apologize.